Hi, this is the Health Wrap by the Hindu. I'm Ramya, Kannan, the health editor, and I'm joined by my colleague Zubeda, Hamid. We discuss the most important health stories of the week. Firstly, there's a question, what's in your samosa? We also talk about innovations in healthcare that will make life pain-free and easier. How about the brain versus mind conundrum? We also look at a book that's so bold and forthright, it rocked the pharma industry. Do remember to watch the segment where our expert guest Dr. Vivek Shanmugam, senior hepatologist, talks about liver health. He says both liver detoxes and supplements are dicey. In our reporter on call unit, Bindu, Shajan, Perappadan, our reporter in Delhi dials in to tell us more about the new development on sugar and oil boards. To the left of me is a QR code which will take you directly to the health page of the Hindu.
So Ramya, this week has been all about food, hasn't it? Food has taken center stage, and we're trying to figure out what's in our food, what's hidden within our food, and what the food does to our bodies. So in this direction, the Union Health Ministry has come out with an announcement that has sort of befuddled everybody, because it has said that all public institutions, schools, offices, canteens have to now put up oil and sugar boards displaying the the amount of oil and sugar that all of our popular snacks have. The idea being that we might perhaps pause and think twice before picking up that samosa or that jalebi, right?
So this is basically not to prevent your eating a samosa, but to restrict your eating samosas. So if you see the calorific value, the oil and the sugar content in in a samosa or a jalebi, that might tell you, okay, stop with one. So that is the aim behind this. By intent, it's a great move, and I think it's a great stepping point. But if you look at the economy in this country, it is a large economy. Most of it runs on the street, the food industry. Street food is a big thing. We all eat samosas and pakoras off the street. So what is the guarantee that that is one, hygienic, two, that we will be able to realize the value, the calorific value and the oil and sugar content in those foods? So that is the huge question in front of us now. But at any rate, this is a great starting point, I think.
Absolutely. As we all know, obesity has become a crisis of massive proportions in India. And as you rightly pointed out, what do we do about street food? How do we regulate it? How do we ensure it's hygienic? How do we figure out what is going into our bodies from the street food that we eat?
Actually, there is another thing that people can do. So labeling of foods is still not pakka in this country. There's a lot of packaged food that comes without labels.
Absolutely.
So it's important to make sure that labels on packaged foods have the right values, have the truth and the whole truth. So I think maybe this why we have in our segment reporter on call, we have Bindu, Shajan, Perappadan, senior assistant editor with the Hindu, joining us today.
Bindu, tell us, what are the objectives behind the Health Ministry's decision to set up oil and sugar boards at all public institutions?
Yeah. So, of course, Zubeda, the larger goal, of course, is to improve the overall health of Indians. But let's put this into perspective. Over 60% of all deaths happening in India today can be attributed to NCDs, which is non-communicable diseases. This includes your heart attacks, your hypertension, diseases related to liver, cancer, etc. What is also being noticed alongside is that we have a rise in obesity and we have a rise in vitamin deficiency ailments. So this is because our food is calorie heavy and deficient in nutrition. So if you take a medium-sized burger, which is what the government is saying, if you take a medium-sized burger, you have a sweetened drink and you have a side dish of a fried side dish, you're already consuming 900 to 1000 calories, where the requirement is only 1600 to 3000 calories in a day for an adult. So you in one snack you have already overeaten. So what the government is saying is watch what you're eating and eat in moderation. So this entire setup is to tell us that sugar and oil consumption are the two major contributors, which is pushing up our obesity graph.
That seems to be a very laudable initiative, Bindu. As you said, we have a massive proportion, a massive crisis of obesity on our hands. Tell us a little bit about how the nutritional values of these common snacks are going to be calculated.
Yes. So I another thing that I wanted to add is that the government is also worried about the fact that children are also becoming obese. So we had a
Absolutely.
Lancet report. Yeah, we had. It's not just adults. So children. We had a Lancet report in 2022 warning us that 12.5 million children between the age of 5 and 19 have become obese, as opposed to zero point 0.4 million children in 1990. So how is this value? How is the nutrition or the calorie value quantified for food products? For this, because it's technical, I'm going to read it out. This is the standard which is set by the ICMR's National Institute for Nutrition in Hyderabad. So what they do is that labs assess the calorific value of each food. This is done on a 100-gram basis, understanding what is the total amount of sugar, saturated fat, and salt levels. Foods are usually evaluated for healthiness using a validated nutrient profile model, which is again set up by the government. This is the evaluation is done on the aggregate nutrient value of every ingredient that is there in a particular food substance.
Bindu, one more question for you is that while this initiative is going to look at all of the foods that are being served in cafeterias and canteens and like places where employees sit and eat together, what happens to all of the food that is out there on our streets?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So there is no the government. The pilot project is initially for institutions where there is where food supply is regulated, where you can put up these warnings. So the pilot project begins with institutions like schools, government sector, private sector, where you can actually reach out to the audience saying that, look, this is the graph that we are putting up, this is what you're consuming. But hopefully they're hoping that this initiative will then pan out into a little unorganized informal settings. So as of now it is just for schools, colleges, government institutes, private institutes, where this kind of information can be given.
So the goal finally is don't stop eating, but eat in moderation, correct?
Absolutely. So the goal is don't stop eating, watch what you're eating, eat in moderation. Another very interesting thing that India has is that WHO had recognized obesity as a disease in 1999. European Commission recognized obesity as a disease in 2023. India still doesn't recognize obesity as a disease. We still consider it a risk factor. So this particular order to prominently display the amount of sugar and oil content is to promote a healthy dietary habit in all settings. So the spirit is to watch watch and regulate how much oil and sugar you're consuming.
The next big thing we are talking about this week, Ramya, is advancements in medical research. So one of the things I'm excited by is the fact that researchers have now redesigned the speculum. So this is something that most women dread. Every time you have to go for your annual gynecological exam, the one thing that you're thinking about is pain, pain and pain. And now apparently researchers have redesigned it so that it is actually a patient-friendly device rather than a doctor-friendly device.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it, that 180 years after the vaginal speculum was first discovered and started to be used, it still is a cold steel machine that causes pain.
Correct.
When used. So, isn't it time that we looked at something that would be of ease to the woman? I know a lot of women who do have a huge problem with it's most uncomfortable and sometimes extremely painful as well. So, I hope these two researchers from Delft University in the Netherlands actually go through with this and make these products so that it is available across the world and for women who have issues with using this speculum.
As we pointed out so many times in our pages, women's health always takes a backseat, and women's pain even more of a backseat when it comes to the medical field.
And the other thing we always make sure to mention is that access is very important.
Absolutely.
So, an invention or a discovery somewhere in the world, if it is not passed on to the, to the globe and the people who really need it, including the poor, I think it's of very little use. So, pushing for access again.
The second exciting advancement was the fact that IIT Madras, right here in our backyard, made a wheelchair. And what was special about this wheelchair is that it is lightweight, it is compact, and it can be dismantled and packed, something that seems to be a very, very useful thing.
Yeah, there's a great video demoing this wheelchair. It's just 8.5 kgs, and that, believe me, is super light. I know this because there are elders in the family who needed wheelchairs, and I know how difficult it is to maneuver and also shift the patient to a car or outside of it. So, I think this is an excellent win for mobility and independence. There is an organization that has given these wheelchairs free to a large number of people, and it's also in the production line. So, I think it's something that we'll have to look out for.
That sounds fabulous. This month is being marked as Brain Health Awareness Month, and July 22nd was marked as Brain Health Day. Now, the interesting thing is about the brain and the mind is that there is a complex interplay between the two, even though they're two such different things, the brain being your organ, the mind being the repository of your thoughts, etc. But they intersect at so many different points, don't they?
Yeah, it's not just a health question, it's also a philosophical question. But I think it's, let's say that there are areas that intertwine when it comes to the mind and the brain, though the mind is a composite subjective experience that we undergo, while the brain is an organ processing with a huge processing power. But there are areas that do intersect, and we have to be cognizant of that. I think there's a lot of neurology and psychiatry that looks into that as well. Where does biology end and where does the experience begin? I don't think we're ready to answer that question yet. But we've looked at a number of stories today that looks at how perhaps fatigue is tricking the brain into making, very, very simple, taking easy route out. Maybe it's not helping the brain think as much as it should. That's what fatigue does to you. And we're looking at how new treatments offer scar-free precision treatment for stroke patients, and we're looking at mental health challenges faced by the youth, and how there is trauma that is triggered after events, and how we can address these issues. It's very important. Brain health and mental health is something that we also focus, as you know, on the health page. It's a great focus that we take on every week. Then shall we move on to yet another video story that we did this week?
Yes, absolutely. We did a very compelling interview with the author of a book who decided to expose the secrets of a massive pharmaceutical major that everybody has heard about, Johnson & Johnson. Tell us more about that, Ramya.
Yeah, so it is actually interesting because Gardner Harris, who wrote this book, he's a journalist, New York Times reporter. He was covering the pharma beat. So it's interesting that he grew up in what was called a Johnson town, and they believed that Johnson & Johnson had some values. It was the ideal corporate entity in America, one that should be emulated. And as he got into the pharma beat, he realized that there was so much that was not right with Johnson & Johnson. They were looking at hiding side effects that they were aware of, influencing regulators, and prioritizing profits over safety. Some of their egregious acts include pushing drugs to children when they knew that there is a huge impact on their health. So these are some of the stories that Gardner Harris has in the book. We've also done a big interview with him, which is on the website, and I think it's insightful, and taking on big pharma is always not easy. So kudos to Harris, but do check out the book if you can, or check out our video.
Absolutely. It has larger implications for how the pharma industry should be regulated. And with India being a major hub for pharmacies, this has implications for us as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's something that we all should be aware of as regulators and as media also, which is sort of a watchdog. We should be aware of what the pharma industry is doing and keep a watch on it. So if we can start with the question, basic question about how does the liver tell us that something is not quite all right? What are the early warning signs?
First, good evening and thanks Ramya and the entire Hindu team for having me on board. I think liver is an amazing organ. People only in the last few years have recognized that it is such an important organ that we really need to take care of it. I think 5 years ago, 10 years ago, no newspaper would carry a liver article. No, there's no social media work on liver diseases. In fact, there are lots of now detox things coming up. The market is all very hot with liver-related stuff. But I'm very glad the awareness is coming in. The awareness is important because the liver will not complain up until 50% of the function is lost. I think that is extremely important. I mean, I do enough of social media posts, and every time someone keeps telling me or commenting me that, oh, I've been drinking for donkey's years, nothing's happened to me. I drink every day, nothing's happened to me. Father's been drinking every day, nothing's happening to him, right? But unfortunately, something will happen. And that is, at that point, it means at least 50% of the function is lost. Okay. Of course, there is a entity called acute liver failure where there are conditions where the liver will fail immediately in 24 hours. We are not going to talk about that. But in chronic liver disease, be it secondary to alcohol or fatty liver disease or viral diseases, it takes a very long time for the liver to start complaining. The first thing which we notice, if I see 10 patients, 8 of them will say that, oh, I felt very tired. That's the first thing, tiredness, right? And then they'll say, I had some leg swelling. I just disregarded it. They'll say, oh, I've been traveling for a long time in a bus, in a car. There was some swelling in the legs, so I didn't bother much. So swelling in the legs means something. It means one organ is not functioning. It could be either your heart, your kidneys, or your liver, right? So swelling is an abnormal thing in a healthy human being, swelling in the legs primarily, right? So swelling the legs, tiredness, of course, jaundice, passing yellow urine or yellowness in the eyes. People always mistake jaundice for a disease by itself. Jaundice is not a disease. Jaundice is a sign or a symptom that the liver is not functioning very well. Right? So when someone passes a high colored urine or the eyes are yellow, then it's imperative that they go tested for liver function test and ultrasound scan and so on. So leg swelling, abdominal swelling, tiredness, jaundice, alteration of sleep. Tend to sleep in the nights. They tend to sleep more in the daytimes. The other thing is loss of muscle protein. The liver produces a lot of protein which the body requires, and if the liver doesn't produce protein, the muscle takes up all the muscle loses all the protein because the body needs energy, right? So they lose a lot of weight also. Of course, as disease progresses, people start vomiting blood, stools become black, loss of weight, loss of appetite, so on and so forth. So common things are very, very vague symptoms. Tiredness, lethargy. We might attribute to the heat outside. We may attribute to the work pattern. I think it's important that we do not disregard these symptoms and have a test now and then to make sure all the organs, not only the liver, it could be your heart, your kidneys, everything needs to be tested at least once a year. I think that's very important.
Right, that's a great tip. That basically the liver doesn't warn you until it's very late, and therefore you need to do regular tests, annual tests. So, if you look at the two main things that that are being recommended today, which is one is nutrition and the other one is activity, how does what we eat and how we exercise influence liver health?
Well, that's a great question. One of the most common things, people come and tell me, for people who don't drink alcohol is, sir, I don't drink at all, but I've got liver disease. I don't drink. I have cirrhosis. I don't know why, right? See, the second most common cause of liver disease in our country is fatty liver disease, which is converted or changes to cirrhosis over a period of time. Right? Every other person's a diabetic, which means there is some issue with the metabolism. Right? Everyone with a pot belly means that they have some fat in the liver also. Right? So, how does all this happen? It's overeating and lack of physical exercise. We eat a lot. We only need 2,000 calories a day. I'm sure all of us will end up having 3,000 to 4,000 calories with very less activity. Right? And unfortunately, our meal is a carbohydrate loaded meal. Now, you ask a very classical South Indian family, what is your meal? They'll say three idlis in the morning, some rice in the afternoon, and two dosas in the evening. If you see, everything is made of rice, right? Anything that is polished is bad. That is refined. I mean, rice is a refined carbohydrate, which is not great. And of course, in between they have their samosas, bondas, and their tea with about 3 teaspoons of sugar in it, right? All these things will add up. The calories add up. So the liver can only take so much of insult, right? So, but even for people who don't drink alcohol, they need to be aware that they can have liver disease. That is secondary to the excess amount of food which we take. So we should have, of course, we should have a balanced diet, but predominantly it needs to be a protein-rich diet, right? We don't have much of vegetables, greens, all your channas, rajmas. Of course, chicken, fish, egg is also good. Animal protein is also good. In fact, people with liver disease, we encourage them to have more of animal protein because the per gram of animal egg or fish or chicken will have a lot of protein in it than when we compare to the vegetarian protein. So food is important, and the diet which we take is important. Please be aware of what you're eating. When you're eating is important because and nowadays you can get a hot biryani at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Which is become a very fashion. People go on queues at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock for a big plate of biryani, and each plate of biryani will be about 1,000 calories flat, right? So unless we invest our time and money and your brain in your health today and concentrate on what we are eating, we will suffer the consequences 10 years later, not straight away, right? You'll be, diabetes. So if you see, the problem in our country is NCDs, non-communicable diseases. And all the non-communicable diseases, which is cancers, which is liver disease, which is diabetes, hypertension, is related to inactivity, loss of no exercise, and very high amount of food, right? And if we control, we just need to do these two things properly in our life. We can avoid diabetes, we can avoid heart diseases, we can avoid strokes, we can avoid kidney problems, we can avoid liver diseases. That is how important exercise is. Exercise for 45 minutes. People say, oh, I'm very, very busy. There's 24 hours in a day, right? We can definitely spend 45 minutes for some form of exercise or the other. And of course, control your diet on what you're eating.
Yeah. So that's also very helpful, Doctor. Now, my third question is actually a question within a question. So there's a lot that's happening on the internet and on social media about liver detoxes. So, what is a good liver detox? Does it even make sense? And
Yeah.
does it impact on what is now called fatty liver disease, which seems to be pretty common in Indians?
Yeah. So doing nothing is the best detox, right? The liver itself is liver is the biggest detox organ in your body. Why would a detox organ need another detox material? I've seen enough of videos with homemade recipes, commercial recipes, so on and so forth. You don't need any of these things. All you need is to stop the insult that is happening to the liver. It could be alcohol, it could be a food. If it's a virus, then kill the virus with drugs. All that is required is to stop the insult. Automatically, the liver will sort out by itself. The liver is an amazing organ. It will regenerate itself and it will repair itself. You don't have to do anything extra. There is no medication as such today anywhere in the world to take care of a liver. No medication. That is the truth, right? So all you need to do is, if your liver is affected with alcoholic liver disease and your liver function is off, you stop your alcohol, you will automatically see the LFPs get better, right? If you've got fatty liver disease, if you do something like diet and exercise, your fat will disappear off the liver. That's extremely important. So detox does no good. In fact, they do a lot of harm, right? Lot of these detox things have got heavy metals in it, steroids in it, and that will create a lot of havoc. Apart from detox, another thing which I want to tell the public is the native medicines. Okay, there's enough of proven material today scientifically to suggest that this native materials is not good for your liver, right? They all say jaundice matras but we need to go take medicines for jaundice. Jaundice is again not a disease, it's a symptom. So you don't treat a symptom, you treat the disease. You have to find out what it is. So people always go for these native medicines, which again is not the right thing. Another most important thing which I want to tell the viewers is these supplements, right? Lot of health supplements are coming these days, especially in the gym goers, because they want to build their muscles very, very quickly. Creatinine, magnesium, steroids, this, that, so on and so forth. Again, there's published evidence today to suggest that more than 80% of the supplements which is commercially available in India is crap. It does not deliver what it's supposed to deliver, and it does no good. I, as a liver specialist, have seen enough of people with altered liver function tests who's been heavy on supplements, right? There's enough of natural supplements available: eggs, fish, chicken, your chickpeas, tanna, dal, pulses, cereals, your kheera, your greens, right? So this natural food is available. So for heaven's sake, please stop supplements. Native medicines don't help, and there is nothing called detoxifying the liver because it is not required.
About fatty liver disease, maybe we can have a short explainer on what is fatty liver disease.
We already touched this earlier. Fatty liver disease, obviously, with the diabetes being on the rise, and India being the diabetic capital of the world, we have to be extremely careful, because about 25% of fatty liver disease patients will end up with liver failure. There is emerging evidence also to suggest that the risk of liver cancer is very high in fatty liver disease than with a normal disease, right? As the name suggests, it's related to your food, right? The more food you take, the more fat you get, the more fatty your liver gets, right? It's easily reversible. Control your food, have a healthy food, eat a light dinner, do about 45 minutes of exercise. Fatty liver disease can be avoided. My suggestion is that for everyone above 40 years of age, have a scan at least once a year. Have a basic blood test, which should include your hemoglobin, your vitamin D levels, your liver function test, your kidney function test. Right? Do that once a year. Right? Of course, on the scans, you will see fatty liver disease. It is not going to just disappear out of the blue like that. But what is important is make sure the liver function tests don't get altered. Fatty liver disease is a grade. There's normal liver, there's a grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, right? We need to know that it's not moving from grade 1 to grade 2 to grade 3, right? That is extremely important. Also, we need to make sure that the liver function test stays stable throughout. Because once they become unstable, the liver becomes unstable, then the chances of liver cancer and liver cirrhosis is high. So exercise and diet is the key as far as fatty liver disease is concerned. Also, keep your sugar under control. Your HbA1c should be low. Your cholesterol, triglycerides also need to be under control. This comes as a package. It's called metabolic syndrome, right? People with fatty liver disease, obesity, diabetes, hypertension, fatty liver. This is a metabolic syndrome, and we see a lot of patients these days. So it's extremely important that we control this disease now.
That brings us to the end of this week's Health Wrap, Zubeda.
And I'm looking forward to the fun fact of the week.
Yeah, so this week's fun fact, Zubeda, I'm afraid is also a bit gross.
Okay.
We started speaking about samosas and health. So one thing that's really important for digestion is saliva, right?
Yes.
So did you know that the human body produces about 1 to 2 pints of saliva every day?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that means over a lifetime, a person will produce enough saliva to fill 2 swimming pools. That's the gross part, right? There's also dry mouth, but that's a story for another day. With that, it's a wrap today. Thank you so much for watching. Do watch out for our next episode, which will appear on August 8th, Friday. Do remember to click on the QR code to my left. It will take you right to the health page of the Hindu. Thank you.